Last story here. A huge company targeting creators is HubSpot, which I think is super interesting. I was looking at ActiveCampaign, Keep, which is previously Infusionsoft. They are still using the words B2B business, entrepreneurs, small business, right? HubSpot has recognized the power of creators and they want to partner with creators. They're doing what's called the HubSpot Creators, is an accelerator that gives top undiscovered creators access to the rocket ship they deserve. What they're doing is they say here, the median podcast episode only receives 29 listens, which I will verify that's true. And it makes, and it takes 4,000 listens to reach the top 1%.
1%.
That means that 99% of podcasters never get close to the real impact. We believe there's a way to grow. How does the program work? You get maybe some seed investment, a Series A, a Series B, you're basically raising money for your podcast. And what they're doing is that they're creating the HubSpot Podcast Network. So hopping over to the HubSpot Podcast Network, there's actually a lot of shows that I'm actually familiar with. I do not know they're part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. And I don't know exactly how they're promoted through this. Like you even got Entrepreneur on Fire in here. You got My First Million.
They're a little wishy-washy on the details, I noticed. You know what I mean? Because like I'm
if you go to the FAQ.
I'm still on the creators link here. And I mean, the quote that they got for John Lee Dumas is all ships rise in a high tide. But the quote above, which is Emily Thompson, it feels like we're paving the way for the future of podcasting. So somehow John Lee Dumas is involved, but he's so successful in the pod, he wouldn't need this. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, wait a second.
But if you go to like HubSpot.com/creators and you go to the bottom, it says here, it says exactly how much will I be paid? So they will pay you something. They don't say exactly. It says, what does it offer? And it says, just like creator compensation, operational support increases as you move your way through the creator tiers. At the initial tier, we expect podcasts to do their own editing and production with guidance from our internal team. However, at the highest tier, podcasts can expect to have a full team responsible for editing, producing, researching, and growing their podcast, right? And then it says here, what if I already have a podcast? And it says that they will, it doesn't show actually, sorry. It says, anyways, they were saying that they will either, license your podcast.
I like what they're doing. But from what I was digging around on this, and it sounds like to me that the first cohort is done and they're now looking for the applicants for the second cohort. And according to the information on the site here, they're only looking for like 6 to 8 podcasts. So the first cohort we don't exactly have a large data set here, and they don't really like the 4 different tiers: seed, Series A, Series B, Series C. They're not clickable. And I was really hungry to get some more detail on exactly what is offered in each tier. And they're not really offering a lot of information. So I've already shared this with some friends of mine that are in the middle of launching their own podcast. And I thought, hey, you should apply for this. This seems pretty cool. And they thanked me. I mean, I see enough value here that we should be talking about it for sure. But I just wish there was a little bit more detail. I almost feel like this is kind of like a minimum viable product for them. And they're just trying to kind of test the waters, so to speak, and just kind of figure out how it's actually going to work. You know? But
I wonder, like, what is it going to be? Is maybe they're going to have their own app? And so if I want to find the best business podcasts, I think like the app market for podcasts is like, there's not one that has comments and community in it. Like when Spotify was going big on podcasts, I'm like, wonder if they would just put profiles and comments. Like when you listen to a podcast and then like YouTube videos and then like comment.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know why no one's done that yet, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, it'd be interesting if they have their own app, or like right now, are they just basically sponsoring all these podcasts? Like I didn't listen to these podcasts to see, but like, are they all going to say this show is sponsored by HubSpot? We're part of HubSpot. Like maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. I'm glad you're saying that, because I went through this whole damn thing and I'm like, how is this even monetized? It doesn't make sense to me with how like they're basically going to just paying you out of their own pocket to create content, and as long as your content performs well, they're going to continue sponsoring you, and they're going to continue providing all these kinds of operational podcasting services as well. But there's no clear way of how like the money actually works.
I think they want to create a podcast network, right? Business Podcast Network, very smart, and they're licensing our existing popular podcasts. I just wonder if they're getting any exposure out of those. Like, they're basically the sponsor of that podcast. That would be interesting, right? Then looking over here on Morning Brew, which is also a very popular publication. They got a very popular newsletter. They're doing the same thing where they're saying, hey, we want to partner with creators who are creating podcasts and shows around these various topics, right? And then I noticed that Airtable was doing the same thing. And I've noticed that Airtable? Airtable. You don't know Airtable?
I don't have it.
Airtable,
I don't know Airtable, man. Educate me.
Airtable is like it's like Google Sheets on steroids, but it has an API, so you can like have your backend database of your whole website on Airtable.
Oh yeah,
like you could build like an e-commerce website and then like manage everything with spreadsheets and stuff like that in Airtable. It's pretty powerful. I don't use it. I just know it's incredibly powerful. A lot of people will love it. Yes, it's basically spreadsheets.
Okay. Fair enough.
Like super,
and going back to
spreadsheets.
the Morning Brew, I actually used to read Morning Brew every week, and I've fallen away from it now, but they do great work. It says, by leveraging Morning Brew's audience of 5 million plus, you'll be able to grow your audience far more quickly than as a solo operator. Couldn't agree with them more on this. I think it's a no-brainer for them to get involved in the content creators economy as well. They already have the audience. So can you imagine being a content creator immediately exposed to a vast audience like this right away? That's brilliant for Morning Brew to recognize that they add a lot of value to the content creator economy in this way. Because they got the audience. It's fantastic.
Digital marketer, digitalmarketer.com/podcast. They also I heard they were building a podcast network. They started with the Perpetual Traffic podcast, which is actually started by Keith Krantz. And then, but now it's being run by Ralph Burns and his friend. Before it was Keith, Ralph, and Molly used to be the host of that. I used to listen to that show all the time. Oh, yeah. But after Keith left, and then it was like, and then you know, but it's still a good show, I'm sure. But then they got the Digital Marketer podcast, and I'm sure they want to get more and more podcasts. I heard before that's what they were doing. So a lot of these media companies, they want to have podcast networks, and I think that's what this is. So I actually applied for this HubSpot creators thing.
Did you?
See what happens. I don't know.
Right on.
I don't know what Series A and Series B is, whatever. But hey, you know, if they got something planned, they got a big network, they got a lot of customers, so who knows what they're doing. But I'm sure they were going to love Good Morning Marketers.
So what are we saying here, Matt? That the future is looking bright for content creators? Brands are
the one thing I noticed,
working their butts
the only
off?
downside, I think the downside is that we don't have a really good like cover art for our show yet. And so like looking at the podcast, hubspot.com/podcast network, look at the cover art on some of these.
Yeah, they do.
Like look at this one called The Daily Hustle Show. That's such a nice. Yeah. And look at that one. It actually has the HubSpot logo in it.
Dude, done is better than perfect.
Look at marketing against the grain. Look at that one. That one looks really good.
Are you doing
see this?
Some homework here? Yeah. I do. I do see that they got some great
MarTech podcast looks really bad. That's a horrible cover art. Marketing Made Simple. I think that one looks pretty good.